What's going on, guys, and welcome back to a brand new course on this channel. In this course we are going to be covering the fundamentals of the PHP programming language. Now, it is strict to note that this course is dedicated towards the absolute beginners, so if you have never written a line of PHP code, then this course would be beneficial to you, or if you want to refresh your memory, this course would also benefit you greatly. So sit back, relax, and let's code. For the first video in this course, we are going to be handling variables in PHP. Now, it is good to note that since PHP is a loosely typed language, we do not have to specify our data types when we are initializing or declaring them. One other thing to note is that each variable in PHP must start with the $sign, or otherwise known as the peso sign. I might be butchering that name, but that just gives you a generalized idea of what you're dealing with. Now, since we don't need to specify the data type, PHP actually does that for us. Now, to declare a variable, all we need to do is specify the $sign or peso sign, and then we write the name of the variable. So I'm going to use something like name with an equal sign. And now, let's say we want to declare a string. We cannot write code or write the value of this variable with like this, or if we use something like Timmy. The reason for this is because the interpreter would think this is a normal keyword in the language. What we have to do is specify two double quotes and then write the value between them and then end that statement off with a semicolon. The reason behind this is because a string is ignored by the interpreter and is seen as normal text. Now, if we want to see what data type our variable is, all we need to do is write var dumps or var dump, and then we specify as name. And now, if you have a localhost PHP already running on your machine, or if you don't, I would make a separate video showing you how to install and enable that. But if you do, then go to your source folder and direct towards the file that you are using currently, and go ahead and go into that page by typing the URL in Chrome or whichever browser you use, and then simply refresh. As you can see, it actually prints out what data type it is by saying string, and if we count the letters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that is the value displayed between the parentheses. So if you're using var dumps, it displays the data type along with the character count of the value in that variable. Now, PHP does support different types of variables, namely string that we've just used, integer values, so any positive or negative number, as long as it is a whole number, so which means it doesn't have decimal point values, bool, which you would normally use in conditions such as if statements or for loops, and then you would have float point numbers, or also known as doubles. Now, I'm going to show you how to declare each of them and why sometimes you would use whichever one you specified of using. Now, if we want to go into integers, now again the $sign. Now, as a name for a variable for an int, I'm just going to use age. It's quite easy, and the value is going to be 16. Now, please note that when declaring an integer variable, we cannot declare it as 16.0. That would then be known as a float or a floating point number. A integer must always be a whole number. It can be negative or positive, doesn't matter, as long as it is a whole number, meaning it has no decimal values. Now, if I write again var dump and I specify age, and if we head back into Chrome, this is not working. Unexpected end of file. Oh, there you go. Okay, now if I hit refresh, we would see int 16. This is because the value of our variable is 16, just the same as the length or the value of our string is 5. Now, I'm just gonna go ahead and write in echo followed by double quotation marks, and I'm also going to add a closing break tag. This will just enable everything to be written on one line instead of having it all in the same line. Now, it is good to note we can declare Boolean values, so I'm going to say is valid, and then we can specify either true or false. Now, I want you guys to pay close attention when I'm using var dump and I'm specifying is valid. What we would see is not normally what you would see when you are dealing with conditional statements or bool or true or false statements. So if I hit refresh, we can see bool equals true. Mostly what would happen is you would receive a 1 or a 0 next to the value. This is because in coding terms, 1 or 0 is still equal to true or false, where 1 is equal to true and 0 is equal to false. I do not yet know the actual reason because of this, but it is specified that even when you're using something such as a database and you're storing Boolean values, it will be stored as either a 1 or a 0. Now, we have printed the data types of the variables along with their values, but how do we actually print the variable? To print a variable or any variable of your choice, all you need to do is write echo, and then I'm going to specify age. I'm going to show you different types of how to declare your variables. End of file. And say that again. There you go. And as you can see, we get 16, but I'm just going to, for readability aspect, I'm just going to add another break. And there you go, we have 16. But usually you wouldn't want to just print 16. Now there are two different types of ways to actually print your values onto the page. One would be double quotation marks along with a concatenation symbol. Most languages would have a plus sign, but in PHP it is the full stop. So I can say my age is, and it will print my age is 16. What you can also do is remove the variable from the line completely, and then still just write in age. As you can see, the value does not change. You can actually print variables instead of quotation marks as long as the peso sign or the dollar sign is found in front of your variable. PHP or the interpreter would immediately pick up that that is a variable. Now, to give you another example of a variable, we can use a float or a double. It's the same thing in PHP. So I'm going to type in something such as salary, and my salary is, let's say, 3,555. So I can do again var dump, specify salary, and if I go ahead and go back into Chrome, I'm just going to add another break for readability. Just like this. And if I head back into Chrome, hit refresh, we can see it is a floating point value, and in parentheses we have the actual value of the variable. Now I can also echo my salary, so I'm going to say echo salary, and that will print the value as well, but I'm going to add another break, and then you can see we have our floating point value or a double that we have declared. There is a good thing to know that when you assign a value to a variable, you are initializing that variable. If you do not assign a value, you are declaring the variable. But I do know in PHP, a variable is not declared or initialized until you have assigned the value somewhere along the code. If you use a variable that you have not assigned a value, or the value is assigned either after or somewhere along the code where something is executed, whether you use that variable, you would get a null pointer exception. Thus, you need to make sure that you assign your value before you use any condition or conditional statements along with that variable. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next video.